The food delivery app was already open before you finished the thought. You didn't decide to open it. You didn't sit down and think, I'm going to order food now. Your thumb just moved. And somewhere between unlocking your phone and seeing the restaurant grid, the decision was already made without you. That moment, that's not weakness. That's not a discipline problem. That's your operating system running a 200,000-year-old program in a world it was never designed for. And until you understand what that program actually does, every spending habit system you try is just an argument with a machine that doesn't speak your language. Here's a scene most people have lived more times than they'd like to count. Sunday afternoon, new budget, new app, categories color-coded, every dollar placed, that quiet but real feeling that this time is different. And by Thursday, sometimes Wednesday, something cracks. Not dramatically, a delivery here, and I deserved this there. A small decision that feels justified in the moment and hollow by midnight. You wake up Friday already behind, again. The worst part isn't the money. The worst part is the quiet suspicion that something is broken inside you, that everyone else figured out discipline and you just didn't. Here's what almost nobody in personal finance will say out loud. The problem was never you. Every budgeting system you've ever tried was a logical system attempting to override a biological one. And biology doesn't negotiate. It just wins quietly, automatically, without drama, every single time. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you why impulse spending isn't a willpower problem. It's a translation problem. Your brain speaks a language that budget apps don't understand. And once you learn what it's actually saying, not what you think it's saying, your relationship with money changes at a level that no spreadsheet ever reaches. Not because you'll become more disciplined, because you'll stop needing to be. Let's start with something that might be uncomfortable to sit with. Your brain is not a rational calculator that occasionally makes emotional mistakes. It's a survival machine, ancient, fast, and extraordinarily good at its original job, that tolerates rational thought the way a wolf tolerates a leash. Fine, until there's a threat in the air. And here's what counts as a threat to your primitive brain: stress, low status, uncertainty, lack of control over your environment. The moment any of those signals fire, your logical prefrontal cortex, the part that wrote your budget on Sunday, steps aside. And the part of your brain that kept your ancestors alive during ice ages quietly takes the wheel. The result: you open the delivery app, you click add to cart, you upgrade to premium, not because you failed, because your brain ran a threat assessment and decided that spending was the fastest available path back to feeling safe. This is why your spending habits aren't random, they're diagnostic. Let me show you exactly what they're diagnosing. When you open a food delivery app after a bad day, your brain isn't craving food. It's craving a decision it can win. Think about what that app actually gives you. Instant response to your choice, complete control over the outcome, immediate gratification with zero uncertainty. Your job gave you none of that today. Your inbox gave you none of that. The app gives you all of it in 30 seconds. Your brain didn't fail you. It problem solved. It found the fastest route to the feeling you actually needed: control, and it took it. The impulse spending was the solution. The stress was the problem nobody taught you to budget for. Now consider a different scenario. You see something on sale. You don't need it. You might not even want it that much. But the pull is real and immediate. Irrational. Your brain would disagree. It read available now, may not be later, which is a signal that in every environment your ancestors ever lived in meant secure this resource immediately. A brain that ignored scarcity signals didn't survive long enough to pass on its genes. You have the brain that survived. That brain sees a 40% off notification and treats it like a shrinking food supply. The discount didn't make you foolish. It spoke directly to the oldest part of your nervous system in a language that has never stopped working. And then there's the upgrade. The premium tier, the newer model, the better brand. Your brain isn't making a financial error. It's running a 200,000-year-old status protocol. In every social structure your species ever lived in, visible resources signaled rank. Rank meant access, protection, survival. The part of your brain that spent millennia keeping you alive doesn't know the difference between a mammoth hide and a new pair of shoes. It sees resources displayed and reads that as position in the tribe. This is why overspending isn't just a math problem. It's a biology problem. And until you understand that, every budget you build is just a rational argument with a machine that only speaks one language: survival. Here's where everything changes. The people who genuinely build wealth over time, not the ones who talk about money, but the ones whose net worth actually grows, share one thing that has nothing to do with willpower. They've made their brain believe that saving is winning. Not as a concept they remind themselves of. Their nervous system actually reads a growing account balance the way your nervous system reads a fresh purchase, as evidence that their rank is rising, their resources are secure, their future self is protected. They didn't fight their ancient brain. They learned to speak its language, and then they use that language to build wealth instead of drain it. But here's where it gets complicated, and this is the part that most financial advice skips entirely. Knowing this isn't enough. You can understand everything I just said and still open the delivery app tonight, because your brain doesn't respond to intellectual understanding. It responds to experience, to patterns repeated until they become automatic. If saving money still feels like deprivation, like taking something away, your brain will keep reading it as a threat. And threats get neutralized every single time. The reason most budgeting systems collapse isn't because people forget the advice. It's because the systems never changed how the advice feels. They address the knowledge gap while leaving the survival program running untouched. Every time you've started a budget and watched it fall apart, that wasn't evidence that you're bad with money. It was a logical system losing to a biological one. The system failed, not you. But if the system is the problem, then fixing the system is the solution. And you don't need stronger willpower. You need 3 specific redirects, ways to speak your brain's survival language and point it toward wealth instead of away from it. The first redirect: remove the brain from the decision entirely. Automate your savings before your brain sees the money, not as a productivity habit, as a biological intervention. When funds move to a savings or investment account before you can interact with them, the threat assessment never happens. There's nothing to fight, nothing to resist, no impulse to override. The ancient program never activates. You eliminate dozens of daily micro-decisions that drain your impulse control, and the money accumulates without a single internal battle. By the 12th month, your brain has adjusted to living on what remains. Your net worth is doing something your willpower could never have sustained. The second redirect: give your brain a scoreboard. Your primitive brain ignores invisible progress. It's wired to respond to things it can see, measure, and interpret as rank. This is why a full shopping cart feels rewarding and a full savings account feels abstract. Fix that. Track your net worth, not your budget, your net worth. A single number that rises when you save, rises when markets grow, rises when you pay down debt. A number your brain can register as status. Every time it goes up, your nervous system gets the signal it was looking for. I'm winning. I'm safe. I'm moving forward. Make wealth visible, and your brain will start protecting it the same way it used to protect status through spending. The third redirect: reframe the language of scarcity. Your brain responds to scarcity by securing resources immediately. Most people fight this signal. People who build lasting money habits redirect it. When you see a discount, your brain says, secure this resource. Redirect: your savings account is the resource. Every deposit is securing something before it's gone. You're not saving instead of spending, you're allocating toward the most valuable resource there is, future stability. Same biological signal, different vehicle. Same dopamine, different destination. None of this requires more discipline. None of it requires you to become a different person. It requires you to stop speaking one language and start speaking another. To stop treating every money decision as a battle between your rational self and your emotional self, and start treating it as a conversation between two parts of the same survival system, trying to protect the same person. Once you make that shift, once your brain reads growing wealth as status, interprets automated savings as resource security, and feels the same satisfaction from financial progress it used to demand from impulse spending, the war ends. Not because you won, because there was no war to fight, just a machine running old code in a new world, waiting for someone to update the program. Now that you understand what your spending habits are actually saying, that stress opens delivery apps because your brain wants control, that sales trigger because scarcity is coded into your DNA, that upgrades feel necessary because rank is a survival signal. You're looking at your entire financial life through a different lens. And that lens leads to a question most people never reach. Not how do I stop spending so much, but what is my brain trying to protect me from? That's the question worth asking, because the answer isn't in an app. It's not in a budget. It's not in more resolve. It's in learning to hear what your oldest self has been trying to tell you, and giving it a better answer than a shopping cart.